Hello, beautiful people. My name is Alex Catano, and I am the host of Movies with Alex, a new YouTube channel here. And it's very exciting to do this once again, talk about movies and stuff that I love. And some of you may know me as the host of CATANATION Studios, but this is a new side hobby that I want to start on because this was what the original plan for CATANATION. Side note, if you guys don't know what CATANATION is, it's a podcast where I interview people in my community of San Diego, California, and even bring light into the San Diego community. So check that out, CATANATION. I'll put a link down below for those of you listening here on YouTube. But anyways, this channel will strictly be about movies, TV shows, entertainment. There'll be some top tens. I'll bring in some guests from time to time. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. And what better way to start off this new channel than with the review of the biggest movie of 2021 by default, Spider-Man: No Way Home. I mean, what other movie was like this exciting in 2021? I mean, yes, Shang-Chi was cool, but it was like skeptical. The Suicide Squad was on HBO Max anyways. Black Widow was a prequel, and plus she already died on the show, or on the Avengers, I should say. My apologies. And then no one really cared about the Eternals, and there was no big blockbuster movie. But Spider-Man: No Way Home definitely was one, and it definitely helped out with the biggest cliffhanger, that being from Far From Home, when Mysterio reveals the identity of Spider-Man being Peter Parker. And let's just start the review. Spoilers, you have all been warned, so stay tuned. If you haven't seen the movie, I recommend you to go watch it if you're a fan of Spider-Man. But if you really don't care about spoilers, then feel free to hang out here. Sorry, I'm moving the mic a little bit. But yeah, it's spoilers talks. I'll just talk about the biggest highlights. The fact that we have the Defenders officially on the MCU, and it looks like they're gonna keep the same actors. Charlie Cox will be Matt Murdock, and I know that Vincent D'Onofrio is gonna be on Hawkeye as the Kingpin. I'll actually have a future review for that on this channel later on the road, but I'm super excited to talk about all this stuff, man. And yeah, the Defenders are some people that like people love, but then Iron Fist kind of ruined that for everybody. And unfortunately, the Defenders haven't been the same since, but I think the MCU taking care of it will definitely be great. Um, and based on how this movie ends, I wouldn't be shocked if Daredevil appears in a future Spider-Man movie. Spoilers for that. Like I said, this is gonna be all spoilers from here on out. But the biggest story is that Peter wants people to forget who Spider-Man is because it's ruining people's lives, including MJ and Ned, who are applying to MIT, but they can't get in because they're affiliated with Spider-Man, and people like Flash get in. So it's just not fair. And it's also affecting the life of Aunt Meg. She can't go to work without people distracting her. Happy Hogan has to take care of these guys in his place. And then as trouble goes down, uh, Peter goes to go see Doctor Strange, and hopefully he could reset people from forgetting who Spider-Man is. But the time stone is gone, so there's a spell that makes everybody forget who Spider-Man is, including Doctor Strange, everybody in the MCU, pretty much everybody who's been connected with Spider-Man in the Avengers. So, just as an example, like the Falcon won't remember who Peter Parker is or that he is Spider-Man. So stuff like that. And Peter really thinks like, oh, but I think MJ should know, and Ned should know, and May should know. Happy, of course. And it messed the spell up, and unfortunately it led to a lot of time loops and different universes opening up. Well, even though Doctor Strange managed to save it, some people snuck out. 8 people in particularly, which we'll get to in a second. But the first two that we get introduced are, well, the first one is Doc Ock after Peter goes to talk to this lady that works in MIT to try to convince her to have MJ and Ned at least be thought of to go to MIT. However, what was I gonna say? Doc Ock appears and pretty much fights Spider Man, but he thinks he's Peter Parker from his universe because this Doc Ock is formerly known as the one from the Raimi universe, um, Sam Raimi's movies to be exact. And when he takes off the mask, when Tom Holland takes off the mask, he's like, "Wait, you're not Peter Parker," and you realize that there's different Spider-Man in this universe. So, will the other rumored Spider-Man in this movie be in? We'll get to them. Anyways, um, as he takes Doc Ock and actually starts messing with the arms, it was a pretty funny scene after the nanotech took over the arms. Green Goblin almost kills Doc Ock and Spider Man. And doing so, Doctor Strange saves him, and then, sure enough, the Lizard from the Amazing Spider-Man's there. And now, it's up to Peter to go look after for any other villains from the Spider-Man universes, and that's when we run into Electro, who I was honestly afraid of to see in this movie because in the commercials he looked awesome. Like the upgraded Electro was awesome. Like him, he like actually having the lightning phase from like the comics, and his lightning is yellow, not blue. I was like, okay, that's cool, but are we completely gonna reboot the character? No, they stuck to the gut of who Electro was in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, with Jamie Foxx being this super nerdy guy who nobody liked. They thought he was a loser. They actually remember this, and to top it off, Electro starts blue until the Sandman helps out Peter because remember in Spider-Man 3, Sandman is friends with Peter after they talked about the whole situation of him what's it called? Even though he was responsible for killing Uncle Ben in the Raimi films, he has since been forgiven, and he was pretty much a good guy. But I'll get to what they do with Sandman because it was a little weird, but we'll get to that. But anyways, they both stop Electro, and then eventually they all get trapped, and now you got Doc Ock, Lizard, Electro, and Sandman all trapped in Doctor Strange's dungeon with MJ and Ed watching them. And then Green Goblin had to be the core villain because one of my favorite movies for sure in the Spider-Man franchise is definitely Spider-Man 2. But as far as the greatest villain in a Spider-Man movie ever, by far, Green Goblin, I think Willem Dafoe was just perfectly cast. He was just built for that role, like from the laugh, from the charisma. It was just so perfect, and they kept up with how the Green Goblin was from the comics and how he was in the Raimi film. So this was fantastic, and I love what they did with him, especially with that big twist, where Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin are two different characters, and Willem Dafoe perfectly played both characters right. And as Doctor Strange is ready to send them back home, Peter realizes that they're all gonna go back just to die from other past Spider-Man, and then he believes that he could change him because Aunt May is the one that says like, "Hey, listen, this is what we do in this family. We help people get better." And Peter is like, "Yeah, I want to help make these people better instead of just sending them back because that's who this Peter Parker is." And I really love that he is about that, and it's very refreshing to see someone who, even though he's fighting villains, he actually cares about these villains at any cost. And then it works because he actually does help out Doc Ock, and he helps control his arms and everything, and it was great. And as soon as you look like everything's gonna go back to normal, Green Goblin comes back because Norman Osborn is on sabbaticals, and he talks about how like these are not. I'm not gonna do the voice, but he's like, these are gifts. You should not be ashamed of who you are. You were given these powers for a reason, and now you want to take them away. And freaking Sandman, he just wants to go home. And I don't know what was the story with Thomas Hayden Church. I guess he was just too old, or he just didn't want to be in this film. I don't know what's the story, but he is basically a CG Sandman, literally a Sandman. Even though he wasn't like that in the comics, but they kind of worked around it, like saying like over time he just looked like this forever, and so they kind of smartly wrote him into this. So I mean, because Thomas Hayden Church is what 61 years old, like Jesus. So I could see why they because he doesn't look the way he did in Spider-Man 3. No way. He looks so damn different. Have you guys seen him? Anyways, back to the movie. Yeah, they all are fighting Spider-Man. They're all trying to escape. I didn't like what they did with the lizard. How he stayed in the truck for no reason. They never explained why he stayed in the truck all this time. Like they never did. It was kind of silly and stupid. It would be one thing if they all came through the door and then lizard came through the window, but nothing came out of it. It was just really dumb, and there was no reasoning for it. But anyways, as that was happening, Doc Ock gets beat up by Electro, and then Peter Parker is fighting the Green Goblin, and Aunt May is out there to help fight. And the biggest twist is now I remember seeing that scene with Happy Hogan just looking out the window. I thought they were gonna throw the bomb at him and he was gonna die. Well, plot twist: Aunt May dies in this film, and it was definitely very sad to see that Aunt May was the one to go in. She was awesome. I love Marissa Tomei, probably the best Aunt May we had, not just because she was hot, but she she was different, like from all the Aunt Mays that we've had thus far, um, and yeah, it was sad to see him gone. Like wow, uh, freaking this Peter Parker lost Ben, May, Tony Stark. He has nothing. I mean, obviously Happy Hogan, but it's just like, well, how far can you go? It's just insane, and it was super sad. I was crying and I was super emotional, and then it didn't help that J.K. Simmons, aka J. Jonah Jameson, is constantly saying like, wherever Spider-Man goes, there's always trouble. I told you, Peter Parker is a menace. He is a terrible Spider-Man. Spider-Man is just worthless. He's wherever he goes, there's chaos, and just making him feel bad. And I actually like hated J. Jonah Jameson. That was good acting from J.K. Simmons. That you actually made him actually hate who J. Jonah Jameson represents, just like a hater. And it gets funnier over time, but like that moment, it was just like, wow, you were really angry about it. And then Peter is in mourning. He's like out of it, and then Ned and MJ hear the news that Aunt May is dead, and they was like, wow. And MJ has the chance to press the button and like send everybody home immediately, no matter what. And something very silly happened, but it did lead to the greatest moment in Spider-Man history. But it was so silly that all of a sudden Ned knows how to like um do magic with Doctor Strange magic. It was silly because if you watch the Doctor Strange movie, Doctor Strange, it took him forever to learn how to do that, and Ned just does it by accident. But no one really cared about it because it led to, of course, the greatest moment where Ned is like trying to find Peter Parker, but he's trying to find his Peter Parker, and who comes instead? A Spider-Man walks in, but it wasn't the Spider-Man that we all know from this universe. Instead, it was Andrew Garfield, and the crowd erupted. The crowd was just going crazy, like, "Oh, it's Andrew Garfield! Where is Tobey Maguire? Where is he?" And we have fun with Andrew Garfield. He was a lot different than the other movies. He was a lot more charming as a Peter Parker. Because I always thought Andrew Garfield, personal opinion, but Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man out of the 3 live action ones. But he does have the weakest movies. I don't know how that works. How are you the best live action Spider-Man, but also the one with the weakest movies? I don't know how that's possible. Like if they wrote him into like the Sam Raimi films, like Jesus, those movies would be phenomenal. Like that's how I feel about Andrew Garfield. My personal opinion about it. But anyways, he was funny. He was entertaining. I'll get to more of the jokes and clips that he gets. But like, oh, maybe we could find Peter. Let's try that. What we did again. And sure enough, that's when we get the OG Mr. Tobey Maguire, who was just like rage of nostalgia because I have seen every single Spider-Man every Spider-Man movie in theaters from 2002 when I was 3 years old. I saw Spider-Man. It was awesome. Then I saw Spider-Man 2 in 2004, Spider-Man 3 in 2007, and then I saw the Andrew Garfield ones in theaters as well, 2012 and 2014. Saw Spider-Verse. I didn't see Venom in the theater, but I did see Let There Be Carnage in theaters. So Venom is the only one I haven't seen in theaters ever. And then of course I saw this one, of course, good old Spider-Man, No Way Home, and it was awesome to see these guys and them playing the roots. But one of my favorite scenes of this entire movie was when they go talk to Tom Holland's Peter Parker. MJ and Ned find him, and then they're like, you got some friends that you want to talk to, and they're like, oh, you guys are the Spider-Man? Okay, take care of your villains. I don't care if you kill them. Whatever you have to do, I don't want to deal with them anymore. And then they're like, no, May wanted to help them because that with great power comes great responsibility. That line is in this movie from Aunt May. It's awesome to hear that someone said it. And yeah, there was a purpose, because each Peter Parker, each Spider-Man is different. Like, I hate that people are like, oh, why can't Andrew be more like Tobey? Why can't Tom Holland be more like Tobey Maguire? Or why can't, everybody's always wanting to compare, but all of them are different in their own unique way, and they play better. Like, imagine if all three of them acted the exact same way. This movie would not be as great, but they did a great job of changing up the Spider-Man throughout the years, and I learned to appreciate that with this movie and this scene alone. All of them had a different purpose to life, and they all like help find cures for the rest of the Sinister Five. That's what I'm calling them, the Sinister Five, because there wasn't six; it was just five of them. And anyways, as they're finding the cures for them, they're all interacting. They're like setting up their spider webs, and then Tobey Maguire's like, "Wait, what are those? These are web shooters." Like, "Oh, I don't have those. Look," and he's like, "You guys can't do that. That's crazy." One thing that they did do is that they teased that Ned might possibly become the Hobgoblin, as people predicted. When they're like, oh, you guys must have best friends too. It's like, yeah, I did have a best friend. Then he turned into a villain, and I had to fight him. And sure enough, now he's dead. Like, it got dark, and then Ned's like, I won't be a super villain, but who knows? Maybe down the road he'll turn into a Hobgoblin now. And I just really enjoyed. It was just so much fun. It was just awesome just to see those three. But it didn't take away because I was already invested in the story it was already telling. So it was just so much fun. And now that we get to the final battle in the Eiffel Tower with the Captain America shield for some reason, Tom Holland tells everybody, Tom Holland, Peter Parker in this movie are telling everybody, like, yeah, I'm going to be at the Eiffel Tower. Those villains better come get me. And for everybody who doubted me, I'm sorry, but I'm here to try to save everything and put everything back to normal. Side note, how the heck did Tom Holland, Peter Parker, beat Doctor Strange fair and square? Like, obviously he did math, that's the whole joke, but you think about it, a wizard, like a really powerful wizard, lost to a child. Like, I don't know, it just threw me off. There's a lot of nitpicky things in this movie, but it still doesn't take away from the entertainment part of this film. I still think this movie is pretty great, but they had to write off Doctor Strange for half of this movie somehow. It would have been one thing if they go into like a really spooky universe that takes forever to get out, and then somehow Tom escaped, not Doctor Strange, so he was stuck in the middle of nowhere. But why did he have to beat him fair and square? It was just like, no, it didn't work for me. Even though they're in the mirror dimension, it's just like, it was silly that Doctor Strange got stuck for 12 hours in the mirror dimension trying to get out. Anyways, again, super nitpicky movie, but it was just, it was whatever. But anyways, back to the Eiffel Tower scene where a lot of people were complaining that these guys talk too much and they just like interact, but like, it's fun. Let's just have fun with it. Like, obviously don't take, like, if they were talking for like 30 minutes just like hanging out and chilling, it would have been really boring really fast. But they did a well way of balancing it. Like, there's oh my god, one of the funniest lines of Andrew Garfield's like, because they're like, oh, who are the craziest villains? Tobey Maguire's like, oh, I fought an alien made out of goo, and then Toby's like, oh, I got to fight an alien too in space and here on Earth. And they're like, oh, you went to space? And then Andrew Garfield's like, oh, yeah, that sucks. I want to fight an alien. I only fought a rhino who was played by a Russian dude. And it was just like, no, you're not lame. You're amazing. You're amazing. Like, yeah, honestly, thank you for telling me that. It was just such great dialogue. It was just so much fun. Andrew Garfield by far was the funniest out of the three. But anyways, finally, Electro, Sandman, and Lizard come out, and they all pretty much fight the three Spider-Man. And I like that they let you know that like Tom and Andrew never teamed up with anybody. Tom knows about teamwork, working with Avengers, so this is new to them teaming up, and then Tom Holland being the one giving that story, like, hey, listen, it's all about teamwork. I've been in the Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and listen, it's all about teamwork, getting your senses right, your tinkle. I can't believe they still call it that shit. Anyways, I really love that dialogue, and it was just great. And when all three of them run, swing, they actually share spider webs just to like trade off, and then that pose with all three of them. That infamous scene in the trailers where it was obvious that Andrew and Toby were gonna be there, where the lizard gets kicked by the Invisible Man. They actually show that Toby kicks him in the face. And eventually, all three of them are fighting. They all take turns fighting each villain at a time, starting with the Sandman. And then they do show Thomas Hayden Church, CG Thomas Hayden Church, back at it. They cure the lizard, and then obviously they cure Electro. And they have this really awesome dialogue with Electro and Andrew Garfield after Doc Ock comes in to save the day since he was already cured. But I love that dialogue of them like, oh, no one ever saw me serious. No one ever looked up to me if we thought I was a loser. And then Andrew Garfield's like, no, you're not a loser. You're a great guy. And, you know, just people don't see. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you really inspired me. I wish you were black, but there's got to be a black Spider-Man somewhere, which teased Miles Morales, who more than likely is going to be in the next Spider-Man series, for sure. Doc Ock and Tom Holland. Tobey Maguire. Jesus, so confusing. I feel like Ned when he's like Peter and all three of them like yes, and I feel just like that. Like, oh, Peter Parker. Yeah, same thing. We're all Peter Parker. It's like I feel like Ned sometimes. It gets confusing. But anyways, Toby and Doc Ock share a little moment like, wow, you're so grown. It's great to see you and stuff like that. It's awesome to see this like little dialogue, and I feel like we have closure with all three franchises. Andrew's, Tom's, Toby's, like, yeah, all of them have closure in this film, which is what was the most important part. If you're gonna have these guys come back for a appearance, they gotta have a reason, and they have to have a payoff to what we didn't get to. Like, for example, the fact that the Green Goblin blew up the portal for like all the different dimensions to come out. He throws MJ. Tom goes for the save, gets stopped by the Green Goblin, and Andrew Garfield is the one that gets his redemption because, you know, the story of how he couldn't save Gwen Stacy and the stone. So, that was beautiful. Like, I like little scenes like that we had closure to a lot of moments in the series. And then, because Green Goblin is the evil one, he's the one that killed Aunt May. It showed a different side of Tom Holland that I really like. That he's like, he just sees anger, he sees just bitterness, and he's like, I don't wanna send you to your universe. I wanna kill you myself. He beats the crap out of Green Goblin. Toby and Andrew see this and like, oh, we should do something about this. And then, as the Green Goblin's on the floor, knocked down, he grabs the board, similar to a reference to the first Spider-Man film back in 2002, grabs the board of Green Goblin and is ready to just like stab him and murder him. And then Toby's the one that stops him. Like, no, listen, this is not the way. I'm sorry. And you really feel the pain. I really love that. Like, there was no dialogue in that scene, and it just worked perfectly. So it just shows like you could tell a story with less words, and like you don't have to like over explain everything. Just show us that, like, just find ways to like tell the story. And then, oh my goodness, I thought this was the end, but like Green Goblin stabs Tobey Maguire, like, oh no, they're gonna kill this Spider-Man. Of all the Spider-Man they're killing, they kill this one. And then sure enough, it was a great distraction to get the cure for Norman Osborn. And then we check on Toby. Thankfully, he's okay. He's just hurt, and he's like, "Am I dying or is this real?" And then this all comes back to the most important part, and that is the spell that uh, Peter Parker, Tom Holland, Jesus, uh, messed up, and Doctor Strange is like, oh, it's so hard, like it's gonna explode. All of the universes are coming together, like there's no other way. And then that's when Tom Holland realizes with great power comes great responsibility. The only way out of this is that we cast a spell and everybody forgets who this Peter Parker is. And it's just like, it sucks because now everybody's gonna forget. The Avengers are gonna forget, MJ, Ned, Happy Hogan, even. Everybody is just going to forget who Tom Holland's Peter Parker is. And that was the unfortunate. And even Doctor Strange is like getting teary eyed. He's like, goodbye, Peter. Say goodbye to everybody else. He has one last hug with the other two Spider-Man. That's the last time we'll probably ever see these three together. Unless they, throw in some more money. There could be ways to bring him back. It will be fun, but they don't have to. But I'm really excited if they do. Or if they don't, it's okay. Because now I'm excited for where this Spider-Man's direction is going following this. But Peter promises that MJ and Ed will come back. But it looks like he's ready to tell everybody who he is once again. But it was just going to be too crazy to believe. So he just leaves it alone. And then who knows? Maybe Ned will come back and be the Hobgoblin. MJ could easily come back. I wouldn't be shocked if, like, Peter, since he lives alone now, he has to, freaking work somewhere. More than likely, he's gonna work at the Daily Bugle with J. Jonah Jameson continuously talking smack about Spider-Man. But I don't know where Peter is gonna land in the near future, but I'm very excited. And then we have one last moment. Happy Hogan and Peter Parker visit Aunt May's burial, and they pretty much share their story that she was a great woman, always caring about everybody. I would have loved to seen next to Aunt May Ben Parker. That would have been great Easter egg for everybody to see. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. But anyways, Peter gets his own place. He lives alone. He makes his own spider suit. So we're going back to the traditional Spider-Man, which is what people have been begging. Because a lot of people complain about the MCU, like, oh, the spider suit has too many powers, just like too robotic. But now we're going back to the old tropes of Spider-Man. So this was a soft reboot in its own origin. Because the story is that we're getting Tom Holland for 3 more Spider-Man movies and maybe some cameos in the MCU near the future, or even TV shows. Who knows what will happen, but I'm super excited and I'm very happy to see where Spider-Man going to be next. Will MJ and Ned find out everything? Will something happen where they remember everything? Who's gonna take over as a villain? But it's just super exciting. Phenomenal movie. I really loved it. Really recommend it. It has some nitpicky parts, like I said. Just how does Ned know how to use magic that quickly? Why does Doctor Strange lose a fight to a teenager or a young adult, whatever? Nitpicky stuff like that, but it doesn't take away from the fun of this movie. And just saying goodbye to 3 different franchises in one movie. It was perfect. I loved it. I probably have to say 9 out of 10. And let's talk about those end credit scenes. First one, Venom, or Eddie Brock is in Mexico. Remember that he's there. The rumor is that like everybody who came to a portal is because they were connected to Peter Parker or Spider-Man. And the rumor is that the symbiote is the same one from Spider-Man 3 that Topher Grace, the guy from the 70s shows, had. So who knows if that's true? The symbiote is from that universe. But the biggest story is that as Eddie Brock is getting these notes out, he gets sent back to his universe, but unfortunately, a piece of symbiote is stuck in Mexico in that universe, and now it's going to go after a different person. More than likely, the bartender, and then eventually lead to maybe a future villain or maybe the MCU version of Eddie Brock, which could be a more serious character that could take a different tone. It will be very fun. I'm looking forward to see where that's going to go, but it's super exciting. And then the final one is a trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which looks phenomenal. Sam Raimi is directing, the guy who did the Spider-Man movie, so this could be his big comeback, his big redemption. Who knows? But I'm super excited for it, and there's just a lot of great stuff. This movie made me fall in love with the MCU again. I like Black Widow, but it was an alright prequel at best. Shang-Chi was awesome, but it wasn't theater worthy, and I haven't seen the Eternals yet. But this one brought me back to uh, loving the MCU again, and I'm super excited. Mainly Sony. Like, Sony's been killing it. I am excited for Morbius. I wasn't high on the Venom movies. They're hit or miss for me. But I'm super excited. And I love the Spider-Verse. I can't wait for Across the Spider-Verse. That movie's going to rock, I swear. Those part one and part two, those movies are gonna be phenomenal. The writers of those movies are just geniuses. I love what those people have worked on. Like, everybody involved in that series, I love. Like, that is just an amazing series. But yeah, that's gonna be the very first video for Movies with Alex. Thank you all for sticking around for as long as you did. I guess again, it's me, the ALE double X Alex from Movies with Alex, and check out this show, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.